Let's ask ourselves a question. How can pendulums force their adherents to voluntarily give energy? A large and powerful pendulum can force its adherents to act according to certain rules. But how do weak pendulums do this? When a person does not have the power to force another to do something, he uses reasonable arguments, persuasion. Persuasion, promises. All these are weak methods inherent exclusively in human society, which has moved away from natural forces. Pendulums, such methods are also sometimes used. But they also have much more powerful weapons. Pendulums are energy-informational entities. Therefore, they obey and act in accordance with the powerful and immutable laws of the existence of this world. A person gives energy to a pendulum when it emits mental energy at the resonant frequency of the pendulum. To do this, a person does not have to consciously direct his thoughts in favor of the pendulum. As you know, most of the thoughts and actions of people lie in the unconscious. This property of the human psyche is used by pendulums. The pendulum manages to receive energy, not only from its adherents, but also from ardent opponents. You can probably already guess how. Imagine a group of old ladies on a bench who swear at the government of the country. They are not adherents of the government's pendulum. They hate him for a number of reasons. However, what is going on? Old ladies scold the government for what it is incompetent, corrupt, cynical, and stupid. Thus they radiate intensely mental energy at the frequency of this pendulum. In fact, the pendulum does not care from which side you will swing it. Both positive and negative energy are suitable for a pendulum. The main thing is that the radiation frequency should be resonant. So, the main task of the pendulum is to touch a person to the quick, no matter how, as long as the person's thoughts are occupied by the pendulum. With the advent of mass media, of course, the methods of pendulums are becoming more sophisticated. A person becomes more and more dependent. Have you noticed that news programs are usually dominated by bad news? They cause strong emotions: anxiety, fear, resentment, anger, hatred. The task of the mass media is to attract attention. Mass media, being pendulums themselves, they are in the service of more powerful pendulums. The declared goal is free access to any information. The actual goal is the same configuration by all impossible ways to the frequencies of the pendulums. One of the pendulum's favorite ways to access your energy is to throw you off balance. Deviating from balance, you begin to swing at the frequency of the pendulum and thereby swing it. Let's say prices have increased. You react negatively, you start to resent, complain, exchange information with friends. Quite a normal and adequate reaction. But this is exactly what the pendulum expects. You radiate negative energy into the surrounding world at the frequency of the pendulum. It receives energy and swings even more. The situation is getting worse. The strongest thread that can pull you the pendulum is fear, the most ancient and powerful feeling. It doesn't matter what exactly you are afraid of, but if the fear is related to any aspect of the pendulum, it will receive your energy. Anxiety and anxiety are already weaker, but still strong enough threads. These feelings very well fix the radiation of mental energy at the frequency of the pendulum. If something bothers you, it's hard for you to focus on anything else. Guilt is also one of the widest channels through which the pendulum drains energy from you. The feeling of guilt is imposed on us from the very beginning. Childhood. This is a very convenient method of manipulation. If you are guilty, you must do what I say. It is very uncomfortable to live with a sense of guilt, so they try to get rid of it. And how can you get rid of it? To be punished, or to work off the guilt. Both imply submission, obedience, and the work of thoughts in a certain direction. The sense of duty is private. A case of guilt. He must, then he is obliged to do something. He is guilty of doing it. As a result, the guilty, both true and far-fetched, wander with drooping heads and carry the pendulum. Submit your own in the form of energy. Induced, instilled guilt is a favorite weapon of manipulators, and we will return to it later. Of particular note are all kinds of psychological complexes of people. A complex is when something touches you to the quick. Inferiority complex: I have an unattractive appearance, I have no abilities and talents. I do not have enough wit or wit. I do not know how to communicate with people. I am unworthy. The guilt complex. I am guilty. Everyone condemns me. I have to bear my cross. Warrior complex. I have to be cool. I declare war on myself and everyone around me. I will fight for a place in the sun. I will take my own by force. The truth lover complex. I will prove my case at any cost and prove to others that they are wrong. These and other complexes are personal keys to the energy of individuals. The pendulum, touching a person to the quick, intensively drains energy from him. You can continue the list of threads for which the pendulums pull their puppets: justice, pride, vanity, honor, love, hate, greed, generosity, curiosity, interest, hunger, and other feelings and needs. Feelings and interest allow you to fix the flow of thoughts in a certain direction. If the topic arouses neither interest nor emotion, then it is very difficult to focus on it. Therefore, pendulums capture the flow of thoughts, touching the feelings and needs of a person. As a rule, people have the habit of standard react to negative external stimuli. Negative news causes discontent. Disturbing news causes a reaction of anxiety or fear. Resentment causes dislike. And so on. Habits serve as a starting lever to trigger the capture mechanism. For example, the habit of getting annoyed or worrying about minor things, the habit of responding to provocation, in general. Respond with a negative reaction to a negative stimulus. A person may realize that negative thoughts and actions do not bring anything good, but out of habit, he makes old mistakes. Thus, habits often create problems and make you act ineffectively, and it is difficult to get rid of them. Habits are an illusion of comfort. A person trusts that more, which has been familiar for a long time. Everything new raises concerns. The old, familiar, has already proven itself on experience. It's like an old armchair in which you sit down to rest after work. Maybe new and more convenient, but the old is more comfortable. Comfort is characterized by such concepts as convenience, trust, positive experience, predictability. The new has these qualities to a much lesser extent, so it takes a considerable time for the new habit to become old. So, in general terms, we have considered the methods of influencing pendulums on people. Can a person free himself from the influence of the pendulum? We will talk about the ways of liberation next. However, it often happens that a person rebels and openly opposes the pendulum that enslaved him. In such a duel, a person always suffers defeat. The pendulum can be defeated only with another pendulum. One person can't do anything. If he broke out of obedience and joined the fight, he will only lose energy, and at best will be thrown out of the system, and at worst crushed. An adherent who dares to violate the rules established by the pendulum is declared an outlaw. Outwardly, this manifests itself as condemnation for the act, actually guilt. It does not consist in the act itself, but in the fact that the follower has gone out of obedience, that is, he has stopped supplying energy to the pendulum. Why the sword does not cut the guilty head? Because that a person who has accepted a sense of guilt is completely ready to submit to the power of the pendulum. For the pendulum, the repentance of the follower in the deed does not matter. Value. It only has the restoration of lost control. The pendulum will immediately become kinder if you give it the opportunity to manipulate you. Well, if the culprit does not submit, then it can be eliminated, because there is nothing more to take from it. The true motives of the pendulum, as a rule, are veiled by moral principles. They say, repenting of what he did is no longer such a villain. You yourself can easily distinguish where the moral principle operates and where the interests of the system are affected, if you always remember what the pendulums are and what their true goals are.